Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a model showcase video for this 1/35th scale M40 self-propelled gun. Unlike my other smaller scale build videos in which those models belong to a private collector and are built for commission, this model here belongs to my own personal collection and is not for sale. However, I do take on build commissions in scales ranging from 1/35th scale all the way up to 1/6 scale. For availability and pricing information on a build to these specs, you can contact me through the email address listed below, which is info@eastcoastarmory.com. First, a quick walk around the model. The model itself started off as this 1/35th scale plastic kit from AFV Club. The kit that you see here was purchased from a Manhattan hobby shop a number of years ago when I was visiting the city. After I purchased the kit, I started working on the model. However, due to other builds and time constraints, I had to set this model aside in order to take care of those other outstanding builds. The model sat in the back of the shop for a number of years collecting dust. In fact, if you watch some of my other build videos, or even if you look at some of the other photographs I have posted on the website, you might see this kit sitting in the background. About a week ago, I decided to take the model and finish it off. This was done in between working on the other builds, namely at nighttime when I was done for working on the other builds for the day. The model was worked on until its completed state that you see here. The model that you see here is built pretty much out of the box, with the exception of a couple modifications that I added to the build during its construction. The build and the kit itself is a more contemporary release, and because of which features a lot of components that are stock to the kit that are a very nice touch. Such things that are included are an aluminum barrel with rifling cuts, clear plastic components for the copula, as well as a form-fitting suspension, and as well as photo etch parts. All these components are stock with the kit and are not needed to be acquired with aftermarket. Starting with the model suspension, the model utilizes the AFV Club semi-workable HVSS suspension. The suspension itself dates back to 2002 and was originally offered as an aftermarket component for 1/35th scale Shermans. The suspension sets themselves are very nicely detailed and are semi-workable in that they are form-fitting. As you can see, they can fit with uneven terrain, which helps with the look of the model. Lots of components on this model can be made to pivot. However, the plastic that the components are made of is very fragile. I found it best is that if you're going to make some of the parts functional, it would be best to drill out the plastic pins and replace them with metal sewing pins. By doing that, the pieces are a lot more robust and will hold off better to the rigors of the piece being pivotable. Moving our way to the tank's track. The track that you see on the model are the kit supply T66 tracks. The kit supplies you with two sets of vinyl, flexible, rubber tracks that are representing that of the T66 metal link. The tracks that you see here are similar to the T66 aftermarket tracks that were sold for Shermans, however are a little bit longer than those sets and are not interchangeable. The tracks have adequate detailing on both the interior and exterior of the track. However, a lot of other model makers I've noticed on the internet like to swap out the rubber kit supply tracks with that of workable track links from either AFV Club or any of the other aftermarket track manufacturers. For the purpose of this build, however, this kit supply tracks were more than adequate. Moving our way to the front of the model, we have here the travel lock. The travel lock here is modified from the kit original in that it was made to be functional. Not only was the travel lock itself made to pivot to the open position, but the lock itself can also pivot in order for the barrel to fit inside. The way this was done was that all of the plastic molded in pins were deleted and metal ones were used in their place, like I mentioned earlier. The two rods that you see here that support the travel lock were originally supplied with the kit, however, were made out of very flimsy, thin plastic and were replaced with metal wire in their place. This type of a feature is common on this build, as this build features a lot of very thin plastic parts that are easily replaced with metal counterparts. Also, moving on from the travel lock, we have here the two copulas. The copulas themselves are the standard lathe style copula found on US AFVs such as Shermans as well as Pershings. On the AFV kit, they are actually made out of clear plastic, which is a very nice feature in that, as you can see from the periscope portions that are left unpainted, give you a very nice realistic look. In addition to the periscopes on the hatches themselves can be modeled in the open position and are also made out of clear plastic, which once mounted like you see here, also really help with the look of the model. Moving our way to the center portion of the vehicle. The center portion on the M40s where all the tools are stowed. All the tools that you see here are supplied with the kit and are very nicely done and detailed. You can also see here where the photo etch mesh is used for the mesh and grill work. It's a very nice feature. This was added with the kit instead of having to be an aftermarket add-on. Moving our way to the rear portion of the vehicle takes us to an interesting portion, which is that of the Bulldozer spade. The spade itself, its purpose is to swing down into the open position, and when the vehicle fires, the recoil from the 155mm howitzer will push the vehicle back, and the spade will keep it from going back any further. Because that this piece is always making contact with the ground, and since the metal used on the spade is not the type of armored plate which is used on the rest of the vehicle, it will tend to weather a lot differently than that of the rest of the vehicle. Also, while on the back, you can see here that the vehicle is built as it's in the transport mode. The model does have the ability to be modeled in the firing mode, namely for diorama use. However, for the needs of my build, I went ahead and just made it in the transport version that you see here. All of the components that you see here, namely the dozer blade, as well as some portions here of the crew floor plate, are actually hinged and can be made workable. However, because of the pulley system required to raise and lower the spade, it is impossible to make this component functional with this small scale. While on the pulley, the kit supplies you with a little bit of string in order to facilitate the pulley needs. However, rather than using the string, I found it to be a little bit more realistic to use thin metal floor wire instead, as the floor wire better looks like weathered steel cable than the painted string does. The wire also holds its shape better when wrapped around all the pulleys that you see here. The wire itself gets wrapped into a winch which is mounted on the inside portion of the vehicle. Also, all of the connecting points for the pulleys, as well as the linkages for the pulleys, are supplied with the kit and are that same very thin, brittle plastic that the other components are made of. These are other components that I strongly recommend in replacing the kit plastic ones with that of wire. This is also true with the small little grab handles that you have here on the rear corner panels of the M40. These are again molded in, and there is a small little runner sprue connection tab that would have been mounted over there. The plastic is so finely molded that removal of the little plastic tab is very difficult, and in my case I accidentally broke both of the handles upon removing the nub, which is why I simply just replaced those with two metal staples that you see here. Staples are the exact same diameter and size of the kit supplied handles, and once added to the vehicle, look indistinguishable. Moving our way to the interior, as well as the 155mm long tom howitzer. The interior itself is nicely detailed. It does have some nice diamond plate detailing on the floorboards. The seats are present, as well as the ammunition racks, and even the oil filters, which are mounted on the interior portion of the hull, and which would be the firewall. The howitzer itself, I believe, is the same kit as the AFV called Long Tom, which has been around for many years, and is a very nicely detailed kit. The gun itself can be made to recoil. However, once you make that feature, you will tend to scratch up this portion here, which will hurt the look of the model over time. Also, for the gun to recoil, it needs to be in the firing state as opposed to the transport state, which I have it here. Like I mentioned before, the barrel itself, from this portion up, is made out of aluminum and does have its rifling present in the barrel. The aluminum barrel with the rifling is a very nice touch and really saves time with having to remove any seams on the model. Another functional feature that can be built into the gun is that of the ability for it to go up and down. However, to do that would have required me to spend more time on this build than I had allocated. So the elevation mechanism and feature was dropped. The model itself was a very straightforward build. However, I strongly do not recommend this kit for beginners as well as some intermediate model makers out there. The kit itself, the model looks very simple. However, it is comprised out of a lot of very small and very fragile little components that can easily be lost as well as broken and installed incorrectly. However, if anyone out there is used to working with very elaborate model kits, this kit is strongly recommended as it is a very unique piece of American artillery history. One problem that I personally had with the model, however, was that of the markings. The kit supplied markings proved to be extremely fragile and extremely frail in getting them off of the decal sheet. When the water slide decal made contact with the water, after the paper was soaked, when it came time to apply it to the tank, the decal itself would just crumble. The decals that you see on here, half of them were the kit original decals and markings, and I was very lucky in getting them onto the model without it ripping. However, the stars that you see on this build were that found in my spare parts box, which were the same size as the kit supplied ones. So if anyone out there is working on one of these, try to, if you can't, be very careful with the markings. If not, try to find an alternate source of American AFV markings. And that concludes this model showcase video for this 1/35 scale M40 self-propelled gun. If you like this video, stop by and like us on Facebook. And don't forget to check out eastcoastarmory.com for more armor modeling builds, as well as 1/6 and 1/16 scale detailed components. Thank you.